Hello, class. So let's continue with this lesson. So we left last time at 172.2, which states that works are protected by the sole fact of their creation, irrespective of their mode or form of expression, as well as of their content, quality, and purpose. So was this question already asked in the bar? So I think it is. Let's check this question. I think it's not here yet. Okay. Now, I also told you that you have to memorize or familiarize the 15 original works because it's very important for you to answer some questions related to that. Like in this case, it says here, this is a bar question. It says here, what intellectual property rights are protected by copyright? So at least you have to enumerate all those 15 in 171. Okay, 172.1. Okay, now let's go to another question related to that. So it says here, under the IPC, lectures, sermons, addresses, dissertations prepared for oral delivery, whether or not reduced in writing or other material form, are regarded as A. Non-original works, B. Original works, C. Derivative works, or D. It's not subject to protection. So if you don't know what are those original works in contrast with the derivative works, now you can't answer this even if it's multiple choice. So it's very important that at least you should familiarize all those 15 enumeration. So the answer here is B, of course, original works. Now, there's another question also. It says here, X painting of Madonna and Child was used by her mother to print some personalized gift wrapper. So again, the subject of this question is a painting. So now you should be able to decide. So is painting included in the enumeration of those original works that are protected from the moment of creation? Diba? That's why it's very important, again, to familiarize all the enumeration. So as part of her mother's efforts to raise funds for Bantay Bata, the mother of X sold the wrapper to friends. Why an entrepreneur liked the painting in the wrapper and made many copies and sold the same through National Bookstore. So which statement is most accurate? Letter A, Y can use the painting for his use because it is not a copyrightable material. So this one, is it a copyrightable material? So if you're familiar with the enumeration of what are copyrightable materials, then you'll be able to answer this properly. Letter B, X can sue Y for infringement because artistic works are protected from the moment of creation. Letter C, works of art did not be copyrighted also to get need to become works of art need to be copyrighted also to get protection under the law. So it means it needs to be copyrighted. It means that it needs to be registered. Or D, why can use the drawing even though not copyrighted because it is already a public property having been published already. So now this is a little bit tricky because um, if you are now confused between copyright and patent, then you may be able to answer this one. Because for patent, if it's already published, that it can form a prior art that can bar the registration of your invention. Huh? So what is the answer for this one? The answer is letter B. Because the painting, okay, the painting is a literary and artistic work, and it's included in the enumeration of original works under section 172.1. Okay, now let's move on to okay to the next slide. So I have here the Denicola test, okay, the discussion of Denicola test of conceptual separability. So this was asked in the bar exam, okay, before. Go back first. So we'll read this first. So the Denicola test says that a useful article may be copyrightable. Okay, because we said that when it's a useful article or something that has utility or use, then it's not within, right, the protection of copyright, because things that have function or utility are proper subjects of patent. But here it says that a useful article may be copyrightable only to the extent that such design incorporates pictorial, graphic, or sculptural features that can be identified separately from and are capable of existing independently of the utilitarian aspects of the article. There's no copyright protection for works of applied art or industrial design which have aesthetic or artistic features that cannot be identified from the utilitarian aspects of the article. So, like this one, if you can see, this is a useful article. So, it can't be a subject of copyright. But as opposed to this one, look at this intricate design here. Can it stand by itself? So if can stand by itself, then it is conceptually separable, no, from the useful article. So the design can exist independently. So it can be a subject of copyright. So the sculptural features can be identified separately from or are capable of existing independently of the utilitarian aspect. So the test here is if it can, okay, exist independently of the utilitarian aspect. And this was already asked in the bar exam. It says there, the Denicola test in intellectual property law states that if design elements of an article reflect a merger of aesthetic and functional considerations, the artistic aspects of the work cannot be conceptually separable from the utilitarian aspects, thus the article cannot be copyrighted. So the answer to this one is true. Because if it cannot be conceptually separable from the utilitarian aspect, then that article cannot be copyrighted. Now, let's go to derivative works. So section 172 enumerated the original works. Now we have derivative works. So what are derivative works? Like for example, this is the painting, the Starry Night painting of Van Gogh. And what I did is, this is already out of the public domain. So because Van Gogh died in 1889, or I'm not so sure. But this 1889 is, I'm not so sure if that's the year of death of Van Gogh, or it is the year when the painting was made. But this is already in Wikimedia Commons. It's already out of the public domain after Van Gogh died. Okay, years, like 75 years after Van Gogh died. Now, I made a derivative work, but class, I just did this using AI. So this original painting shows a rural scene, and this derivative work that I prepared using AI shows an urban landscape. So this is a derivative work of the existing painting. Now, are derivative works also subject to copyright protection? So no, let's see. The following derivative work shall, it says there, shall also be protected by copyright. So dramatizations, translations, adaptations, abridgments, arrangements, and other alterations of literary or artistic works. So what I did is to alter. So it is also protected. But is it protected the entire thing? Let's see later. Now, derivative works also, letter B is also one kind of derivative work. So the collections of literary, scholarly, or artistic works, okay, the collection and compilations of data and other materials which are original by reason of the selection or coordination or arrangement of their contents. Okay, now let's go to 173.2. So it says in 173.2, the works referred to in paragraph A and B of subsection 173.1 shall be protected as new works, provided, however, that such new work shall not affect the force of any subsisting copyright upon the original works employed or any part thereof, or be construed to imply any right to such use of the original works, or to secure or extend copyright in such original works. So it means that since this is already in the public domain, the the derivative work that I made does not operate to extend the copyright protection over the painting. So I'm only entitled to those things that I've added. Okay. Now, let's go to section 174. So section 174 states that published edition of work, in addition to the right to publish granted by the author, his heirs, or assigns, the publisher shall have a copyright consisting merely of the right of reproduction of the typographical arrangement of the published edition of the work. Now, what are the unprotected subject matter? So there are also limitations to copyright. Not everything is protected by. So section 175 enumerates the unprotected subject matter. It says here, notwithstanding the provisions of sections 172 and 173, no protection shall extend under this law to any idea, procedure, system, method, or operation, concept, principle, discovery, or mere data as such, even if they are expressed, explained, illustrated, or embodied in a work, news of the day, and other miscellaneous facts having the character of mere items of press information, or any official text of a legislative, administrative, or legal nature, as well as any official translation thereof. So these are the unprotected subject matter. Idea is unprotected, right? Because it is the expression of the idea that is protected. So there was one bar exam questions which says news reports are not copyrightable. So is this true or false? So be careful, class, because while I was browsing online on the suggested answers on bar exam, there was a suggested answer that this statement is true. But actually, the answer is false because what are not copyrightable are news of the day. So it's like the theme of the news for the day. For example, the theme of the news of the day um, is about, for example, the volcanic eruption or about the road rage. So those are the news of the day. But how it was expressed in a news report, okay? The manner wherein the wordings of the news and how it was expressed by the reporter and everything, okay? The factor, how it was reported, and even the lighting or the music, if there's any, then it constitutes news report and it is copyrightable. So again, news of the day are not copyrightable, but news reports are copyrightable. Then we go now to section 176. So 176 states that, if I'll go back because I remember another bar exam question relating to this one. It says there, if Albert Einstein is still alive by now, is the theory, the formula for theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, copyrightable? So the answer is also no. Okay? Because it is a principle. Okay? How about a mere discovery? Like, for example, you discovered something like while walking, and then you, yeah, for example, no. This, I think this is related to one of the bar exam questions also. While looking at the sky, you discovered something like a rare star. Yeah. Now, can you, if you write it down in a book, then can you copyright um, that article, for example? The answer is still no, because it says there it is a mere discovery. So if it is a mere discovery, even if they are expressed, explained, illustrated, or embodied in a work, then it is not a subject of copyright. Okay, now let's go to section 176. So section 176 also is a limitation to copyright. Okay, it's a limitation to copyright protection. Why? Because there is no copyright protection for the works of the government. So they are not protected. So it says here, no copyright shall subsist in any work of the government of the Philippines. However, prior approval of the government agency or office wherein the work is created shall be necessary for exploitation of such work for profit. Such agency or office may, among other things, impose as a condition the payment of royalties. No prior approval or condition shall be required for the use of any purpose of statutes, rules, and regulations, any speeches, lectures, sermons, addresses, and dissertations pronounced, read, or rendered in courts of justice, before administrative agencies, in deliberative assemblies, and in meetings of public character. So here, works of the government, oh, it's the same? Yeah, it's the same. Okay, so if we'll summarize that, the general rule is there's no copyright for works of the government. Okay, that's the general rule. So you can use it, okay, without incurring copyright violation. But if you're going to use it for profit, you need a prior approval of the government agency. So even if it says there that there's no copyright for works of the government, you still need prior approval of the government agency. But even if it's for profit, there's no prior approval needed in case of statutes, rules and regulations, and speeches, lectures, sermons, addresses, and dissertations pronounced, read, or rendered in courts of justice, before administrative agencies, in deliberative assemblies, and in meetings of public character. Now, to take note of 176.2, because it says here the author of the speeches, lectures, sermons, addresses, and dissertations mentioned in the preceding paragraphs shall have the exclusive right of making a collection of these works. Like, for example, the speeches of former Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. Then she's the one, okay, now authorized to have the exclusive right of making a collection of his work or her work. So I think I'm not so sure. I think he has that already in a book. I'm not so sure. Okay, but that's just what I think. So we cannot just get all those speeches of that person, a government employee, and collate and then make a collection and then make a book. You can't do that because you have 176.2, even if there's no copyright for the works of the government. Okay, now section 176.3. So again, it will go back to 176.1. It says there, no copyright for works of the government. So it means that the government holds no copyright. Okay? So walang pag-aari ang government na copyright. But if 176.3 states that, notwithstanding the foregoing provisions, the government is not precluded from receiving and holding copyrights. So it doesn't have copyright over its work, but if the copyright is transferred to it by assignment, bequest, or otherwise, then okay yun. Okay? So it means that, for example, uh, a painting was donated to the government. So along with that is the assignment of the copyright. Then now the government has already a copyright over that painting. Then it says here, nor shall publication or republication by the government in a public document of any work in which copyright is subsisting be taken to cause any abridgment or annulment of the copyright, or to authorize any use or appropriation of such work without consent of the copyright owner. Now, this second paragraph here, okay, the second paragraph means that, no, it's not paragraph, sentence, okay. It means that if a copyrighted work, for example, was published in the website of a government agency, it doesn't mean that it becomes work of the government. It doesn't mean that there's no copyright to that particular copyrighted work. So it means that if you'll use that, then you should still ask for the consent of the copyright owner. Hindi porket nandun na siya sa libro na, for example, a book released by the government or in its website, then ibig sabihin, okay na yan, free for all na. So the if the material is copyrighted, then even if it is published by the government, the publication of the government doesn't mean annulment of the copyright. So it's clear in 176.3. Now, we go to section 177, which is also very important. So now, class, check. It says here in section 177, copyright or economic rights. So copyright is synonymous to economic rights. Or when you say copyright, in other words, it's economic rights. So when we hear the word economic, it has something to do with money. Okay? That's why we are protecting this work because we also want, okay, the copyright owner, the author, or the artist to be able to monetize. Okay? To be able to monetize this intellectual property that they made. Okay? Now, it says here, subject to the provisions of Chapter 8, copyright or economic rights shall consist of the exclusive right to carry out, authorize, or prevent the following acts. So reproduction of the work or substantial portion of the work. So only the copyright owner can do this. This one, dramatization, translation, adaptation, abridgment, arrangement, or other transformation of the work. So in other words, the making of derivative works. So it's also an exclusive economic right of the copyright owner. So class, bakit copyright owner? Why I'm not saying author? because sometimes it's not always the case that the author is also the copyright owner. So there are times that the author, which should be a natural person, is not the copyright owner. So we'll discuss that later on. So the author can only be a natural person because of the definition, okay, stated in 171, 171.1. But for the copyright owner, it can be actually a corporation. So later, we'll discuss it again. So economic rights, also included in the economic rights, is the first public distribution of the original and each copy of the work by sale or other forms of transfer of ownership. Rental also of the original or copy of an audiovisual or cinematographic work. The public display of the original or a copy of the work, public performance, and other communication to the public. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 economic rights. Now, if we'll summarize the economic rights, we have my way of memorizing this is I have 3 P's and then 2 R D O. So the public distribution, the public display, the public performance, the reproduction, rental, dramatization, or other communication to the public. So it means that if you are the copyright owner, you have the exclusive right to carry out, gawin lahat tong mga to, or to authorize others. Okay, you can license other persons to do this for you, or prevent others from doing this. Okay, now, what is an example of this? For example, you have a book. So if you have a book, okay, and you are the copyright owner, now the public distribution right is you can, okay, you're the only one who can sell the book, okay, or you can authorize others to sell it for you, like for example, the publishers. Now, public display. So public display for that particular book, you're the only one who can display in public or publish like pages of the book or contents of the book. How about public performance? So you're also the one who can do or the authorize the performance of whatever is written in the book. For example, the book is a novel. Then you can prohibit, no? You're the only one who can authorize that the novel be performed in public. Okay? Now, reproduction. How about the right to reproduction? So you're the only one who can reproduce the book and then eventually sell it. Okay, you can reprint it, you can photocopy it, but the others can't photocopy, or you can prevent, okay, others from making a copy of your book. So you can rent your book. So dramatization. So you're also the only one who can carry out or authorize making, okay, or making an adaptation of your book into, for example, a film, movie, or motion picture, and then other communication to the public. So these are 7, and these rights are very important. Bakit? Okay. Maybe later we can discuss some other bar exam questions, but for now, I'll continue with my slides. Now, we go now to the rules on copyright ownership. So copyright ownership shall be governed by these rules. So subject to the provisions of this section, In case of original, literary, and artistic works, copyright shall belong to the author of the work. Okay? So this is the general rule, subject to other provisions, but this is the general rule. The copyright belongs to the author. In case of works of joint authorship, the co-authors shall be the original owners of the copyright. And in the absence of agreement, their rights shall be governed by the rules on co-ownership. If, however, a work of joint ownership consists of parts that cannot be used separately, and the author of each part can be identified, the author of each part shall be the original owner of the copyright in that part that he has created. For example, there's a book about intellectual property, and it's divided into three sections: copyright, patent, and trademark. And now there are three authors, and it can easily be distinguished who created each of the section. Then they are only entitled to the copyright over the work that they've done. But if it cannot, okay, if it can't distinguish which is which, then it will be governed by the rules on co-ownership. Like for example, also for the song, the lyrics can be owned by another person. The melody can be owned by another person. Then there's still another copyright for the one who's performing that if it's performed by another person. Now, 178.3 says here, in case of work created by the author during the course of his employment, the copyright shall belong to the employee, even if the creation of the object of copyright is not part of his regular duties. Okay? The copyright shall belong to the employee if the creation of the copyright is not, okay, not part of his regular duties, even if the employee uses the time, facilities, and materials of the employer. Okay, so this one here uses the time, facilities, and materials is subject to another case. But we're talking only of copyright, so the copyright belongs to the employee. Example of this one. For example, you are an IT person, so you only deal with coding coding of the IT matters in your company. But during your break, you're writing horror movies. So since it's not part of your regular duties, even if you use the time, facilities, because you're in the office and you're using the laptop given by the office or issued by the office, and you're using the electricity of the office, the air conditioner, still the copyright is yours. But the copyright shall belong to the employee if the work is the result of the performance of his regularly assigned duties, unless there is an agreement expressed or implied to the contrary. So the general rule, if it is part of your regularly assigned duties, then the um, copyright shall belong to the employer. Like, for example, you are a graphic designer and you are assigned in the marketing department of a company, and you do okay, you create logos for the products of the company, then those specific logos or labels, design of labels that you do for the products is owned by your employer because it is part of your regularly assigned duties. Now, class, here, in case of commissioned works by a person other than an employer of the author and who pays for it, and the work is made in pursuance of the commission, the person who so commissioned the work shall have ownership of the work, but the copyright thereto shall remain with the creator unless there is a written stipulation to the contrary. So we already discussed how many provisions on ownership. This one is commissioned works. So commissioned works, the output, the final output or product will be owned by the one who commissioned. But unless there's a written stipulation, then the copyright shall remain with the author or the creator. For example, I ask someone to paint for me, to paint my image or likeness. Then, without any stipulation as to who owns the copyright, then the copyright shall belong to the painter. But the actual painting shall belong to me. So what is the implication of that? So the painting can stay with me, but I cannot reproduce the painting or have a public display of the painting or rent the painting because those are the economic rights of the author or the creator. Now, this is a bar question about commissioned work. So there are, I think, a lot of bar exam questions on this. This is one example. BR and CT are noted artists whose paintings are highly prized by collectors. Dr. DL commissioned them to paint a mural at the main lobby of his new hospital for children. Both agreed to collaborate on the project for a total fee of 2 million pesos to be equally divided between them. It was also agreed that Dr. DL had to provide all the materials for the painting and pay for the wages of technicians and laborers needed for the work on the project. Assume that the project is completed and both BR and CT are fully paid. The amount of 2 million as artist fee by DL. Under the law on intellectual property, who will own the mural? Who will own the copyright to the mural? Okay, so what is the final output as the mural? So now we have two different things, the final output or the product, and then the copyright. So here now, who owns the mural? So it will be Dr. DL or the one who commissioned. And who will own the copyright in the mural? It will be BR and CT. Okay, because they are the ones who painted the mural. So in the absence of any stipulation, then the copyright shall remain with the authors. In case of audiovisual work, so this is audiovisual work, the copyright shall belong to the producer, the author of the scenario, the composer of the music, the film director, and the author of the work so adapted. However, subject to contrary or other stipulations among the creators, the producer shall exercise the copyright to an extent required for the exhibition of the work in any manner, except for the right to collect performing license fees for the performance of musical compositions with or without words which are incorporated into the work. So it's stated that there are several owners of copyright, okay, in case of audio visual work. Now, in respect of letters, the copyright shall belong to the writer because it is the writer who is the author, subject to the provisions of Article 723 of the Civil Code. So what is this Article 723? It says here that letters and private communications in writing are owned by the person to whom they are addressed and delivered, but they cannot be published or disseminated without the consent of the writer or his heirs. So we'll stop here, okay? So it only means that, again, we have two items here, right? The physical letter and the copyright to the letter. So the physical letter will be owned by the person to whom they are addressed. But the copyright to the letter, it remains with the writer, right? Because it says here, in respect of letters, the copyright shall belong to the writer. That's why also here in the Civil Code, it says there, but they cannot be published or disseminated without the consent of the writer or his heirs. Like, for example, I've written a letter to you, okay? It's a very nice letter encouraging you that you'll be able to pass the bar, etc. Now, you really like the letter and you publish it in your Facebook page. or in your wall in Facebook. So do you have any copyright violation? The answer is yes, because you only own the physical letter. But the publication of that letter, then you cannot do that without my consent. Now here is bar exam question regarding letters. So it says here, uh, Diana and Piolo are famous personalities in show business who kept their love affair secret. They use a special instant messaging service which allowed them to see one another's typing their own screen as each letter key is pressed. When Greg, the controller of the service facility, found out their identities, he kept a copy of all the messages Diana and Piolo sent to each other and published them. Is Greg liable for copyright infringement? Reason briefly. So here now, you have to think about all the provisions and analyze how to answer this question. The first question is, number one, um, is the subject of this question a letter? Okay, because it says there, it's a special instant messaging service. Okay, and it produces messages sent to each other. So do you think it's a letter? Now, if your answer is yes, is letter protected under the copyright law? So letters being protected under the copyright law, I think you'll be able to answer that very easy, right? Letter is one of the 15 original works protected by the copyright law. Now, as to the question of whether these digital letters are indeed letters, I think we can go back to 172.2, which says that works are protected by the sole fact of their creation, irrespective of their mode or form of expression. So even if the expression is digital, it's not the letter in a paper, then still it's a letter. So now, please answer this. So is Greg now liable for copyright infringement? So to be able to answer that, you have to check or think again. Now, who owns the copyright? Okay? And go back here. The copyright shall belong to the writer. And who are the writers here? They own the copyright. So Greg, not being the writer, okay, of those letters, cannot publish them because the publication belongs as an economic right of the author or the copyright owner. In this case, the copyright owner is the author. For anonymous and pseudonymous works, yes, you can have anonymous or pseudonymous works, but the publisher shall be deemed to represent the authors of articles and other writings published without the names of the authors or under pseudonyms. Okay, so it will be the publisher who will appear first, okay, to represent the author. Unless the contrary appears, or the pseudonyms or adopted name leaves no doubt as to the author's identity, or if the author of the anonymous works discloses his identity. Okay, when the author discloses his identity, then the author will become the copyright owner. Now I have here a table, okay, a summary. The type of work, original literary and artistic works, the copyright owner is the author. Now, for works of joint ownership, they are co-authors and their right should be governed by rules on co-ownership. But if they can be identified separately, their work can be identified separately, then the author of each part shall be the original owner of the copyright of the party created. The work created by the employee during and in the course of his employment. Employee. If not part of his regular duties, even if he used the time, facilities, and materials of the employer, so siya ang copyright owner if it's not part of his regular duties. Now, it belongs to the employer if the work is the result of the performance of his regularly assigned duties, unless there is an agreement to the contrary. How about class for works created by government employee as part of his regular duties? So who owns the copyright? Okay, have to think about that. Now, and the answer to that, if I may say, is again, go back. Are works by the government protected by copyright? Ayan, that's your clue. Okay? Now, for commissioned works, the copyright owner is the author, unless there's a written contrary stipulation. But the commissioner owns the work, okay, or the product or the output, no, like the painting or the biography, etc. For audiovisual work, it will be co-owned by the producer, by the author of the scenario, composer of the music, the film director, author of the work adapted. For letters, now, again, the copyright owner is the writer, but the recipient owns the physical letter. For anonymous and pseudonymous works, the copyright owner is the publisher first. Publisher, because it is the publisher is deemed to represent the author. Or if the pseudonym leaves no doubt as to the author's identity, then it's the author. Or if the author of the anonymous work discloses his identity, then it will become the author will be the copyright owner. Now I have here a bar exam question, and this is related to the ownership. Here, the question reads, after disposing of his last opponent in only 2 rounds in Las Vegas, the renowned boxer Sonny Bachao arrived at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, met by thousands of hero-worshipping fans and hundreds of media photographers. The following day, a colored photograph of Sonny wearing a black polo shirt embroidered with the 2-inch Lacoste crocodile logo appeared on the front page of every Philippine newspaper. Lacoste International, the French firm that manufactures Lacoste apparel and owns the Lacoste trademark, decided to cash in on the universal popularity of the boxing icon. It reprinted the photographs with the permission, so take note of this, with the permission of the newspaper publishers, and went on a worldwide blitz of print commercials in which Sonny is shown wearing a Lacoste shirt alongside the phrase, Sonny Bachao just loves Lacoste. When Sonny sees the Lacoste advertisements, he hires you as a lawyer and asks you to sue Lacoste International before a Philippine court for copyright infringement because of the unauthorized use of the published photographs. So the question here is there copyright infringement? So to be able to analyze this question, then you have to ask yourself, who is the owner of the copyright? Okay? The owner of the copyright, the general rule, it's the author. So in this case, who is the author? Okay? The author is the media photographer, the photographer. But wait, okay? Media photographers are employed, right, by the newspaper publishers. So to photograph something for a news report is part of their regularly assigned duties. So in this case, the newspaper publisher now, okay, becomes the owner of the photograph because it was done as part of the regular duties of the media photographer. That's why here it says here with the permission of the newspaper publisher. So who owns the copyright now? the newspaper publisher. And it gave, okay, it gave its permission to Lacoste International to reprint the photographs. So remember, if you go back to the economic rights, right? The economic right. The economic rights, the owner, okay? The copyright owner can do or can authorize others to perform the rights that are stated there. So in this case, there is an authority given to Lacoste International. So there's no copyright infringement. There is no unauthorized use because the permission is given by the copyright owner. So it's not Sony Bachao who owns the copyright. And that's clear. Okay. Now, the transfer. Let's go to the transfer or assignment of copyright. Rights of an assignee. The copyright may be assigned in whole or in part within the scope of the assignment. The assignee is entitled to all the rights and remedies which the assigner had with respect to copyright. So remember, we have 7, right? Economic rights. Again, when we say copyright, it is synonymous to the economic rights. So we have public distribution, public performance, reproduction, dramatization, rental, public display, etc. Then those rights are different rights which you can assign in part. Like, for example, if you are the author of the book, then you can only assign, okay, the right to publish to your publisher or the right to reproduce because they will reprint. So you can assign that right, and you can also assign the right to sell or distribute the work, okay? But you can also assign your the adaptation rights, the right to dramatize, adapt, or transform the work to another entity. Like for example, in a film, you can assign it to a film company there. So you can assign each of those rights. That's only the meaning of this. The copyright may be assigned in whole or in part. The copyright is not deemed assigned inter vivos in whole or in part unless there's a written indication. So there should be a written indication. So this assigning a provision, you'll be able to read this in the case of COSAC versus PhilSCAP. So for PhilSCAP, they were assigned the right to public performance. So when you are assigned the right to public performance, then it means that you can do the public performance or authorize the public performance of that work. So the court said in that case, therefore, PhilSCAP as the assignee is entitled to all the rights and remedies which the assigner had with respect to the copyright. So if PhilSCAP determines that there's an infringement of the copyrighted musical works, it can pursue appropriate measures to protect its rights and that right of the assigners. So there are particular rights which were assigned to them. And included to that is the protection of the copyright of the owners in the Philippines. Now, Section 180, what are the rights of the assignee? The submission of a literary, photographic, or artistic work to a newspaper, magazine, or periodical for publications shall constitute only a license to make a single publication unless a greater right is expressly granted. If 2 or more persons jointly own a copyright or any part thereof, neither of the owners shall be entitled to grant licenses without the prior consent of the other. So it only means that if you are submitting, like for example, in a newspaper, you submit an article, then it's only a license to make a single publication. Then after that, no more, unless a greater right is expressly granted. This was also already asked in the bar exam. I think it was a question about Eloisa. So Eloisa submitted an article in the newspaper. And then later on, I think the newspaper company folded. And then Eloisa now wants to publish on her own the article that was published in that newspaper. So does she has a right to do that? The answer is yes. Because again, according to 180.3, the submission is only a license to make a single publication. And that's it. Okay? Single publication. This is only the copyright or the economic right that was assigned to the newspaper or magazine company. Everything was not assigned to them because there are seven economic rights, and only the publication was given to them, assigned to them, and only a single publication. Now, Section 181. Section 181 is also very important to understand. It says here that the copyright and the material object, okay, are distinct with each other. So the copyright is distinct from the property in the material object subject to it. Consequently, the transfer or assignment of the copyright shall not itself constitute a transfer of the material object, nor shall a transfer or assignment of the sole copy or of one or several copies of the work imply transfer or assignment of the copyright. So again, I've discussed this earlier. Like, for example, for a painting, if you bought a painting, then you only own the material object. Okay? You don't own the copyright unless it was transferred to you. Okay? Now, let's go back to this question about BR and CT. You can also answer that using this section 181 here because, again, the mural, okay, is distinct from the copyright to the mural. That's why BR and CT owns the copyright. If there's no stipulation to the contrary, there's no agreement, and TL owns the mural. Now let's go to section 182, the filing of assignment or license. This one has been extensively discussed in the case again of COSAC versus PhilSCAP. Because here, look at this class. An assignment or exclusive license may be filed in duplicate with the National Library upon payment of the prescribed fee for registration in books and records kept for the purpose. Okay? See the use of the word may. So it means that you may file it or you may not file it. Okay? So an assignment or exclusive license may be filed in the National Library. This is only for recording purposes. But it says there, may. So it's not mandatory. Upon recording, a copy of the instrument shall be returned to the sender with annotation of the fact of record. Notice of the record shall be published in the IPO Gazette. So the question here is, says here, shall be published in the IPO Gazette. So does it mean the publication now is mandatory? So in the case again of COSAC and PhilSCAP, because the PhilSCAP, the standing of PhilSCAP here to file an infringement case against COSAC was actually questioned by COSAC. And also the validity of the deed of assignment by the copyright owners to PhilSCAP was also questioned. And COSAC used this provision. COSAC said that the deeds of assignment, assignments were not recorded or were not published in the IPOE Gazette. So the court said, okay, moreover, the RTC held that Section 182 of the Intellectual Property Code the filing of the deeds of assignment and the reciprocal representation agreements with the National Library and its non-publication in the IPO Gazette did not render the said deeds and agreements void. The trial court declared that if this were the intent of the Congress, then it should have expressly provided in the IPC that such assignments and or agreements which were not published in the IPO Gazette shall be void. Citing Section 182 of the IPC, which states, an assignment or exclusive license may be filed in duplicate with the National Library upon payment of the prescribed fee for the registration in books and records. The CA concluded that the filing is discretionary and that non-publication in the IPO Gazette did not render said deeds and agreements void. Moreover, the CA ruled that PhilSCAP is a real party in interest as it is authorized to enforce the intellectual property rights of the copyright owners pursuant to the deeds and agreements. Thus, if the author or assignee opts to file a duplicate of the deed or assignment, a record of the said filing will be kept by the National Library. A notation of the fact of record shall be given to the sender or the filer. Thereafter, a notice of the said record shall be published in the IPO Gazette. With that, the provision suggests that filing a duplicate of the document assigning the rights to the copyrighted musical works is permissive and not mandatory upon the author or the assignee. As uniformly found by both RTC and CA, the filing of a duplicate copy of the deed of assignment of the reciprocal representation agreement with the National Library is not required. Instead, a duplicate copy of the deed or agreement with the National Library is discretionary on part of either the author or the assignee. Since the filing is optional, the authors or their assignees cannot be compelled to file a duplicate copy of the document evidencing the assignment and have the deeds or agreements published in the IPO Gazette before their rights can be invoked or enforced. So the Supreme Court went on to say that PhilSCAP aptly stated that considering the deeds of assignment and reciprocal agreements are not required to be registered with the National Library, then much less is their publication in the IPO Gazette required. The filing of the assignment of copyright is a prerequisite for publication, such that if no assignment is filed, then there can be no publication to speak of. Simply put, if the legislative intent was to void the deeds or agreements in case of non-publication in the IPO Gazette, then a provision requiring said publication should have been expressly stated in the IPC. Absent such a provision, there is no basis to conclude that non-publication in the IPO Gazette of copies of the deeds or agreements would automatically render void these documents. So, in short, class, in short, it means that since the filing in duplicate with the National Library is only, okay, optional, then the more, okay, that the publication in the IPO Gazette is optional. So the copyright owner or the licensee, actually, in this case, is not required to publish the same in the IPO Gazette. Now, Section 183, and this will be the last provision before we end this part. Okay, we still have some other provisions, class, and to follow. So, designation of society. So, what's this society? So, PhilSCAP is actually a society, okay? So, the copyright owners or their heirs may designate a society of artists, writers, or composers to enforce their economic rights and moral rights on their behalf. So, this one also was extensively discussed in the case of COSAC versus PhilSCAP because the standing of PhilSCAP to file the copyright infringement case was actually questioned by COSAC. Okay? But the court said that PhilSCAP as duly authorized by the copyright owners, is the real party in interest and has the standing to file the complaint based on Section 183 of the IPC. And this is the Section 183. Okay? That the copyright owners can designate a society, okay, to enforce their economic rights on their behalf. Now, it says here, the CA found that copyright owners assigned their rights and remedies to PhilSCAP through deeds of assignment and reciprocal representation agreements. As such, PhilSCAP is authorized to regulate the public performance, mechanical reproduction, and synchronization rights granted by law to the creators and owners of the musical works. Significantly, the CA held that registration or publication in the IPO Gazette of the deeds of assignment and reciprocal representation agreements is not required. Similarly, okay, Ferdinand Gorospe, then the licensing manager of PhilSCAP, explained in his judicial affidavit that the license that PhilSCAP issues to its users of the music is basically a written authorization, given that PhilSCAP controls the performance rights over the copyrighted musical works of its members. Okay? So they give, since they are now, they manage, okay? They have a license. Now they can give authorization. They can do or authorize others to do this performance rights. So it PhilSCAP has a right. Now, the designation of PhilSCAP. The copyright owners of musical works can rightly assert their economic rights when their copyrighted songs are being played or performed without their consent or authorization. PhilSCAP even asserted that notice and demand from copyright owner, who is not required for the infringer to be liable for copyright infringement. To effectively enforce their economic rights, the copyright owners can designate a society of artists, writers, or composers on their behalf, like PhilSCAP as provided by Section 183. This designation is achieved through deeds of assignment, exactly how various copyright owners had assigned to PhilSCAP the protection and enforcement of their rights on their behalf. The deeds of assignment between PhilSCAP and the copyright owners are contained in the following provisions. And that's it, class. This is the last slide. So here, because you see, for example, you're a singer in another country and your songs are being played in the Philippines, of course, you cannot come here and enforce your right on your own. It will be very tedious. Of course, you can, actually. Of course, you can. But it will be very tedious. That's why they now have this society like PhilSCAP who will enforce it for them. So they assign to PhilSCAP some rights, okay, some economic rights, and one of them is the performance rights. So now PhilSCAP goes to several establishments, no? They do their own monitoring if the songs are being played in those establishments or being played by a band, like what happened in COSAC. So this is just one of the issues that is discussed in the case of COSAC versus PhilSCAP. There are other issues, especially as to the question of is there copyright infringement? And we'll have to deal with that later on when we go to the provisions on what constitutes copyright infringement. So that's it, class. And I hope this video helped you to help you to review or had a refresher discussion on this subject matter. It's a little bit complicated actually, but I hope this could be your third exposure, and I hope that you'll do best in your midterm examination. Thank you. Bye-bye.